You do whatever.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. It is July 1st, start of the third quarter, officially today, I guess, now that I'm looking at it. We're here, if you're joining by video, we're here in my apartment, in our home office that we've constructed. And I'm actually going to be doing the recap, trying to condense an entire week almost within this podcast episode. We haven't recorded for the past week because I've been away traveling from last Saturday until Thursday night. I was in Barbados for no, it was not vacation. That's what people would ask me, like, hey, I hope you had a good time on the vacation in Barbados. It's like, no, that was not a vacation. I was there for work, actually. We had a meeting with a potential partner on Monday. So Cody and I flew out last Saturday, and then on Sunday we spent the day preparing for the meeting, and then we had the meeting on Monday. And some interesting stuff happened over the past week. So when Cody and I flew to Barbados on Saturday, I believe it was Saturday, that we landed, I received a text, a text from our head of engineering, and it was a bit concerning text. So I got on the phone with him. Let me just cut to the chase. Long story short, effective as of Monday, our head of engineering resigned from the company, which was a little bit surprising, and so that was an interesting kind of thing that happened while while we were gone, and that Cody and I were not aware was going to happen, but it did, and it's already been a little bit. It's been a bit. Sorry, my dogs are in the room here too, so you might have heard some noises if you're joining by audio. Sorry about that. Anyways, it's been the past couple of weeks. We decided to make a structural change. If you've been following around the podcast, the structure we were working with was not great, so I restructured the company a little bit, made Cody the head of the digital studio, this kind of new position where it's running the digital studio, and over the last couple of weeks, we've been really organizing and getting set up for growth. And what's really important with a team that I'm learning more and more is to have continuity, because continuity gives you speed, just like on a sports team. I think of us like a sports team, really. And so we were just getting kind of things organized. Kind of if you think about it, we were restructuring the team, had this new formation, and we're starting to move in a direction. And then we lost a key component, which is our head of engineering, who's resigning. And so that just threw another kink in the system, something that just was not completely expecting, at least not so soon. We kind of had some warning signals that there were some issues that we needed to address, or some things going on, but failure on our part to realize how severe it was, and that shit happened. So fun kind of thing. You're going down to a meeting in Barbados, and then get off a plane, and that's what I kind of find out is happening. And so while we're trying to prepare for this meeting, and then having the meeting on Monday, we're also then having to at the same time deal with restructuring things to make sure all of our partners are okay, and no one's affected by it, that the team is okay, all while being away. So Cody was back in New York on Tuesday. I had stayed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Barbados because I was trying to remove myself so I could do some more high-level thinking for the company before we went into Q3. And this threw a little bit of a wrench in it because had to deal with it. And this kind of shit that you just deal with as you learn is just part of being a CEO, and part of running a company is shit happens that you cannot control. And but what you can control is how you react to it. So in the past, that would have definitely thrown me for a loop. I would have been knocked out for a bit. But I've been through so much. So it's July now. I started the company July 6 years ago. So it's been 6 years now, right? That I've been running this business, and I've had so much shit happen that this happening is like cool, like not that it doesn't matter, but just another thing happened. What are we gonna do? We're gonna, organize ourselves. We're gonna prioritize what we have to do and just start executing. And so that's what we did. We made adjustments pretty quickly. Something I've gotten good at is making adjustments very quickly and not panicking, right? For whatever reason, when my back is kind of against the wall and when you just have to start executing, I do very well. So that's what happened. I started prioritizing and executing. I think that's being very good as a reactive person is something that served me well. But yeah. So anyways, that was that. But I did, even though I adjusted and we dealt with it over a day or two period, then I was still able to take those couple days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and really not be consumed by that new information and actually go back to my high level like thinking on Q3 and Q4. And part of the way I do this, I like to read a lot when I can, and that helps me start thinking about things or just taking walks and thinking. And so anyways, I read a couple of books while I was there. Funny enough, one of the books that I read on the plane, or actually it was like I don't know what it was, Monday, Tuesday, one of the books I read was called Choose Wonder Over Worry, and fitting title for this, right? And it's all about, I won't spoil it, but if you're interested in personal growth and development and understanding your different emotions that you have, this is a great book for that. As the title implies, choose wonder over worry. Getting rid of this, not getting rid of, but understanding why people worry about things or have anxiety or stuff like that. I read about this stuff a lot, which has helped me and work on it a lot, but that's a book that I was reading, and it's fitting for the time, right? Instead of getting worried about things, I was like, okay, cool, this is interesting. We're just gonna go and have to adjust and move on. There's nothing you can do. There's no point in really dwelling on it or having fear about it. And then started prioritizing and executing on things. And I'm using that language because another book that I read on the plane on the way out was called Extreme Ownership. It's by a former Navy SEAL. And there's a lot of great principles in there, but one thing that they talk about is when shit's going down, to really prioritize and execute. Keep your calm, keep your cool, and this is kind of what I've done over the years, but really be like, all right, what's the most important thing? And just start going one by one. And that was top of mind when this was happening. So I take little snippets, pieces of a book here and there, apply it to the real life. Another book that I read while I was there, it was nice, I had some time to do some reading, was called Powerful, Building a Culture of Freedom and Responsibility. It was someone from Netflix, and they were talking about how the Netflix culture was built and evolved over time. A lot of good learnings in that book. Things that, that I'm one thing I'm starting to learn is that there's these companies that have been built and did things differently. So, Netflix, Ray Dalio in his Principles book, which with Bridgewater, this book Radical Candor. There's all these books that are kind of like this new kind of, I guess, philosophy on culture or how to build a company and things like this that for years ago were kind of contrarian, but now are kind of, they've all learned differently what has worked, and it's all out of the same shit is what I'm learning, right? It's the same stuff. So a big theme among all these is this concept of radical transparency or radical candor. And that's something that in Principles they talk about. I mean, in Radical Candor, the book, it's all called Radical Candor. In the Netflix book, they talk about radical transparency as a very important thing to them. But anyways, without going into all the details of all this, what I'm learning is that a lot of these companies, right, have figured out some of those same underlying principles to create high-performing, high-achieving teams. And so I'm taking bits and pieces from each of them, but it's a lot of the same stuff, and which is interesting. So I'm trying to find the common threads among all of them, but there's some principles that I'm noticing are just similar. And so, but one of them is really having this high level of accountability and responsibility, within people and teams, very high cultures of or high transparency cultures, really pushing each other to be better, and it's really thinking about a company as this team and really trying to make it high performing is an interesting thing. So there's a lot of learnings from the book. I'm not going to go on about all of them, but highly recommend both of those books. So anyways, then I came back. I flew back Thursday, and then didn't get home until 1 in the morning or something like that. And then the next morning, bright and early, had the Q3 quarter 3 planning session. We blocked off an entire day for quarter 3 planning. And while I was in Barbados, I had a thought. So initially, the quarter 3 planning was just supposed to be 3 people: me, Lauren, and Cody. Lauren is our head of operations and people. Cody is the head of the digital studio. Then myself. And while I was there, I was really thinking to myself and taking some learnings from books and realizing that as we started growing as a company, we're starting to have more disconnect and communication gaps between people, and everyone doesn't understand what is going on or why things are happening. This was also a theme that was touched on in Extreme Ownership, that book. But this concept of if people are just told what to do and don't understand why it's happening, it becomes very, very difficult to kind of go along with it. And so there's this element of understanding why something's happening, but then there's also this element of actually contributing to the direction of the company. And so this other book, not to go off on, like I'm spitting off a bunch of books here, called The Collaborative Way, that I read a bit ago, was all about getting people's to collaborate with you when creating different plans. And it's a real interesting balance, right? Because as we grow and we have more people, it's how do you actually get everyone to be collaborating? What do you actually need their input in to actually be a part of it? And are you really getting people's input just because you need their buy-in and you want them to just be a part of the process, or are they actually adding value? Or is it, hey, it's okay if they're not adding anything new, is if they're actually part of the process, then they have buy-in into these things. But also, how do you do that as you have so many people? Or what if you don't have everyone there, then you need to tell everyone about what's going on. How do you communicate that and enroll people in what you're doing? These are all things I've been thinking about that are very difficult. Like there's no, there's different, books that I'm reading on like how people have done it, but there's no substitute, I guess, for just trying. And so we're trying different things, right? Like we rolled out something last week and it didn't go over so well at the company, and thinking, hey, what if we had more buy-in and people were more involved in things? And so I took that concept, and instead of it just being a silo of 3 of us and then telling everyone what we were going to do, decided just in the moment, I was like, all right, we're just going to make this an entire team kind of event. And so just literally made this stuff up, right? Is decided to have break up the day into 2 segments. The first half of the day would be group exercises where we essentially have 3 sections of the business. We have people and operations, we have sales and marketing, and then we have the digital studio. So broke off into 3 different sections where people who were available to participate could participate, and I created different exercises that we would walk through. Just really quickly, what I tried was we started with a visualization exercise where we said, hey, imagine 3 months from now and everything goes amazingly, and we're like, wow, this was an amazing quarter. What did we accomplish? And each division, said what they would have accomplished. And then the next portion of the day, for that, we talked about what are things we're not talking about. What are the hard things to talk about that people don't necessarily want to say or are difficult to say, but are really important, because I really do believe in this idea of being very transparent, and we have to say the things that are difficult because that's how we need to address them. So we went through an exercise of that. Then we did what else did we do? We did like what are the biggest challenges that would stop us from achieving those accomplishments? right? So this idea of like, well, what do we actually need to do if we want to achieve this? What do we have to do in order to get there, right? It's kind of like that how. What are the things that if we do not do them, we aren't going to get there? And then there was a prioritization exercise. And then each division kind of took all this information, and I'm really summarizing this very briefly because this was over the span of hours. Took that, presented to everyone else on the team, the different divisions, their summaries. And then after that, we broke for lunch. Then the management team, me, Cody, and Lauren, and then we also included Neda here, who runs our finances and accounting. She was also involved, and so the four of us got together, and then I facilitated the discussion or the exercises similarly, but we did it for a company as a whole, and kind of went through what we wanted to accomplish at the end of Q3. And then I made some on-the-fly kind of adjustments, and then we went right into what do we need to not what do we want to accomplish, and then what are the things we have to do that without them we're not going to be able to accomplish these things. And so we came up with a list of like 10 different things, and then we prioritized them. And 10 things to kind of do from a company standpoint is very difficult, or I think it's too much in a quarter is my thought on it. So we broke it up, and we actually said, okay, we're gonna try and get all of these things done over 6 months or Q3 and Q4. Let's just focus on Q3 though, and we partitioned off 5. We're debating including a 6th in there. So 5 to 6 things that we have as our Q3 like big goals, that we want to accomplish, and so we're doing those. And the idea is, if we accomplish those, everything else that we want to happen should, in theory, be accomplished, or at least we'll have a better chance of success. Because if we do not do these 5 or 6 things, there's no way we can be successful in Q3. And that's the way I look at things. Let's remove all roadblocks. What are the biggest barriers to success? If you address them and remove them, you have a better chance of succeeding. But if you don't address those things, there's no way you can succeed. So that's what I was, the intention behind it. Then we also had a really good segment on where we spent more time on this, really having an open discussion about what are the things we're not talking about or things that we need to address. So we had a really, open, honest, transparent conversation there for a bit. And yeah, then we came out of it with kind of our Q3 priorities. So that's what we were doing, and that was what we did on Friday. It was a pretty long week and day, and then over the last day or two, been Saturday. Did some work, was here, was reading, started a new book that's a little bit different called How We Decide. It's all about I'm only 50 pages into it, but it's about how people make decisions and the neurology and science behind it. So I'm very into, as you can tell, psychology, business, strategy, reading on that kind of stuff. And so anyways, the rest of the day, I've also been watching some World Cup games. That's also what I've been up to. So anyways, I'll stop rambling on here. Rest of the day, I'm going to watch one more World Cup game. Then I'm going to go to the office for a few hours, get some work done. Lot to get done, and yeah, that's it. On the next podcast, just so I don't forget, we'll be going over. I think what I want to do is go over the Q2 financial results. They won't be completely finalized, but I have the Q2 results at least at a high level for you, and I can share those for you. So let's make sure to go over those at the next session, and maybe that's what we'll use for our entire time. Is just I'll do a recap of our financials and how we did for the quarter. So anyways, I hope you're having a great day. It's a start of Q2. I didn't even realize that until we started the podcast, or Q3 rather. And yeah, let's get to work. Anyone who's running a company, good luck in Q3, and yeah, have a great day, guys. All right, bye.